In this blendedschools.net tutorial, we're going to look at creating a Wimba classroom in your Blackboard class. Wimba Classroom is designed for holding live online meetings with students and staff. First thing you're going to do is decide where you want your Wimba Classroom to show up in your class. You may even want to add your own content area to contain it. So I'm going to add a content area quickly. I'm going to go up to the blue plus, create content area, and call it online meeting room. You can call it anything you want. Just make sure that you make it available to your users and click submit. So I've created myself a new content area that I'm going to use to have meetings with the people who are participating in my class. And the next step is to head inside that content area. So wherever you choose to have your Wimba Classroom show up in your class, just make sure you head there. It does need to be a content area or a content folder, anywhere that you have the 4 build buttons. You'll find the Wimba Classroom under the Add Interactive Tool option. You only really need to add one Wimba Classroom per class. You can have as many as you'd like, but Wimba Classrooms are permanently available. You don't need to set one up for every meeting of your class or anything like that. Think of it as a standard physical classroom that you can choose to meet in anytime. Just happens to be on the internet. So when you're ready, you go to Add Interactive Tool and go to Wimba Classroom. And if you've created or have any Wimba Classrooms in your classes, you'll see a list of the ones that you have already created before. But we're going to create a new room in this activity. So whether you do or don't see a list of previous Wimba Classrooms or archives, just go to the Create Room button. This will create you a new Wimba Classroom. And you're going to give it a name. This is just the name of the link that students are going to see. So I'm going to call this Class Meeting Room. This is the link that the students will see. You can put a description if you choose. And then let's go through some of the primary options. In the presentation tools, you can have it set to instructors or both students and instructors. One of the features of the newer Wimba Classroom is that at any time you can give a student instructor access. So this default option of presentation tools only available to instructors is going to work most of the time. If you are going to do recordings with the Wimba Classroom and you want those recordings to be immediately available to the students upon completion, you can check this box. Otherwise, you can set it manually to be available or not. And then we have several different settings that you can choose from. Now, many of these are advanced settings. I'll just go through some of the basics and give an overview of each setting in this tutorial. So the first one is student privileges. These are basically the options that the students will have when they first enter the room. Are they going to be able to speak, show their video, or use their phone by default, or are you going to turn them on as the teacher? And then also you have the option here to set the video bandwidth. If your students have very fast internet connections, you might want to think about moving this up to fast. Otherwise, the default option will work. Then you have the option of the breakout rooms, where you can choose what's available in the different breakout rooms within the Wimba Classroom. Blended Schools has other tutorials that show you how to use breakout rooms. But as with media settings, probably the default will work for you. Then there's the chat settings. Some teachers like to prevent private chat, which is where students can chat to each other without the teacher seeing. And you can enable or disable that here. I'm going to leave that on because I'm fine with my students private chatting each other during the sessions. One that you may find useful is the access settings. You've got maximum users and guest access. The guest access feature is a useful feature for if you want people to access your Wimba Classroom who do not have blendedschools.net Blackboard accounts. This could be people such as, say, a guest speaker or any situation where you want to bring in somebody just on a one-time basis. So I'm going to actually turn that on, and I'll show you what that does here in a second. And then finally, with the Wimba Classroom, you have an option to export any of your archives as either audio or video files in MP3 and MP4 format. And you can choose some options here as to how those audio and video files are created. Again, these are advanced options, and for most users, the default options will work fine. So if you look through these options, you'll probably find that Blackboard's default settings will actually work for you in most cases. The only things you might want to take a look at to be a little bit more advanced would be maybe the private messaging and the guest access. When you're done with your settings, just click Submit. And this will return you to the previous screen. But now you've got the Select Room option selected under Add Link for Wimba Classroom, and the class meeting room that you've just created will be selected in the list. Now you just need to click Submit, and this will take you to the linking screen. Here you can choose color, set availability, dates if you want to, and so on. The default here is going to work for me, so I'm just going to click Submit. That finishes up creating my link. Because Wimba is a building block, you'll find that there is one more click here of an OK, and that will actually take you back to your Blackboard content area or content folder. And there you'll see your Wimba Classroom has now been set up and linked. So to go inside the Wimba Classroom, the students would just click the link. Here you'll see, as a teacher, you get access to the guest link. This is available because I selected the guest linked option back in the settings. If I want somebody to come into this room who does not have a blendedschools.net Blackboard username and password, I can just select this link, copy it, and then I could email it to them, message it to them, get it to them one way or another, and that would allow them to access this Wimba Classroom as a student. But the students won't see this guest access link, only the teachers see that. That's true of the phone number and PIN codes here too. What the students would do is simply click the Enter Room button, and that will take them into the Wimba Classroom. The first time they enter the Wimba Classroom, they'll be presented with a wizard. The wizard will check their computer to see if they have the appropriate software installed. The most important piece of software they need to have installed is Java. The wizard is relatively self-explanatory, but we do have other tutorials in the blendedschools.net knowledge base that show you how to work through that. So that's how you would create a new Wimba Classroom in your Blackboard class, and thanks for watching this blendedschools.net tutorial.